Namaskar and good evening, everybody. Am I audible? Okay. So I welcome all of you once again to this webinar series on Western philosophy. So, as usual, we have with us Professor Pramod Kumar, who will be speaking today on Dualism and Monism with reference to Descartes and then to Spinoza. So it would be a sort of criticism to Descartesian philosophy or Cartesian dualism that we saw in Descartes. Well, during the course of the last lecture, Professor Das tried to explain the concepts of matter, self, and God, and all these concepts linked with Descartes, which I could not attend due to some network issues. Hope you might have enjoyed and attended and enjoyed his lecture. Well, today, there would be a sort of a comparison while advancing to the philosophy of Spinoza. Rather, there would be what would like to see is a sort of a comparative account in advancement of standard while moving from the Cartesian dualism, the deficiencies, the shortcomings that we had found in the Cartesian philosophy. Well, let us see in how far they could be addressed to in the philosophy of Spinoza. So, without say lying in between the speaker and you, let me at once welcome Professor Pramod sir for delivering his lecture on dualism and monism with reference to the philosophy of Descartes and Spinoza. Over to Professor Das for the lecture. Welcome, sir.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible and visible.
Respected Dr. Rao, very esteemed participants of this session. Today we are going to discuss a very beautiful topic, that is dualism and monism. This topic is very much familiar to everybody who belongs to philosophy fraternity, both in East and West. Dualism and monism, these two concepts are well discussed in both Indian philosophy and Western philosophy. These are well discussed because these are very native to human thinking, because when man tries to understand the reality, because it is a human possibility to understand, to ask questions about the nature, the creation, the reality. So he wonders what can be the best explanation of the creation. So there are many possible explanations. One is monism, the other is dualism. Again, we can speak of pluralism. So these are the different possible explanations. Monism is the principle when we attempt to explain the creation by one principle. Is it possible to explain the entire creation by one principle? If yes, it is monism. By one principle, we can explain the entire world of diversity. Everything can be explained by one principle. The second possibility is that everything can be explained by two principles. What are these two principles? That is something different. But if the principles are two, by which we are going to explain the entire reality, entire creation, entire cosmic phenomena, then that is dualism. If we take multiple principles to explain the creation, multiple principles for the explanation of the world of multiplicity, then it is pluralism. The world of multiplicity can be explained by multiple principles, by two principles, by one principle. So different philosophers give different types of opinions, views, according to their own worldview, own understanding, own reflection. Therefore, philosophers are also divided into different types: monists, dualists, pluralists. So they give different types of opinion. Which opinion is correct? Which opinion is incorrect? This is not the job of philosophy to make a judgment that which philosophy is more correct, because philosophy is not interested in that type of judgment. Philosophy tries to give a possible explanation, a possible worldview, and in support of that, philosophy takes help of some reasons, tries to understand, tries to give the best worldview by giving the best reasons, explanations. So those philosophers who advocate monism, they try to explain, they try to justify, they try to prove that how monism is possible, how everything can be explained by one principle. Those who advocate dualism, they also beautifully explain how everything can be explained by two principles. And similarly, those who advocate pluralism, those who are pluralists, they also give their own reasons to explain pluralism, multiplicity, diversity. So here in the philosophy of Descartes and Spinoza, we have a transition from dualism to monism. Descartes said, in Descartes' philosophy, we found double dualism. Double dualism, one is the dualism between extended substance and thinking substance, matter and mind, and the other is the absolute substance and the relative substance. Mind and matter, again, God and world. God versus mind and matter. So mind and matter are two substances and they are independent to each other. So here we find a dualism. Again, mind and matter both belong to one type of substance, that is subsidiary substance, which is different from the absolute substance, that is God. So, and Descartes is satisfied with this dualism, and Descartes says that this is natural, because we can't explain the world of diversity without having double principles, because extension cannot be explained by thought and thought can't be explained by extension. So extension and thought, they are independent to each other. There is nothing common between them. Therefore, one cannot be explained by the other. When two principles cannot explain each other, so naturally their duality stands. And we have to admit that even in Indian philosophy, in Sankhya system, Purusha and Prakruti, They are dual. That belongs to this dualism. Purusha is pure consciousness. Prakruti is not conscious. Prakruti is unconscious. Purusha is conscious. Purusha is inactive. Prakruti is active. That means these two entities have two distinct qualities. They are different in quality and function. So Purusha cannot be explained by Prakruti. Prakruti cannot be explained by Purusha. And the entire creation can be explained by these two principles, Purusha and Prakruti. As a child is born out of both male parent and female parent, only a father cannot give birth to a child. Similarly, only a mother can give birth to a child. Mother needs father to give birth to a child, and father needs mother to be a father. So father to be a father needs a mother, and mother to be a mother needs a father. So it is natural, it is scientific, it is pragmatic. So dualism is well understood. There is no problem in understanding dualism. So this is very natural, and in every sphere we find. Similarly, in the flow of currents, there is two types of entity in current section. One is positive and negative. If one is absent, there will be no flow. We can't use that current. So in every sphere, we experience dualism. So dualism is very natural to our experience. It is very native to our understanding. But when the question of monism comes, people think that here man becomes a philosopher. Here man becomes a thinker. How monism is possible? This is a question. Is it really philosophical to think about, to speak about, to argue about, or to explain, or to discuss about monism? That there is only one principle out of which everything can be explained, out of which everything can be originated. The source of everything is one, not two, not many. So it sounds philosophical. It sounds metaphysical. It appears that as it is a very speculative, because our experience teaches us that dualism is natural. So here some philosophers in both in East and West. In East we can take Vedanta philosophy, Sankaracharya, and in West now we are discussing about Spinoza. They are thinking about monism. That yes, monism is possible. So how it is possible, and what is the problem with dualism? Descartes started his philosophy by doubting everything. That was a very good start. But Descartes could not end his philosophy so successfully. So anything is good if that ends with goodness, that ends well. Your starting point may be very excellent, but you don't conclude your journey or your discussion logically, successfully, then that is not a satisfactory journey. So your end should be successful. So your starting may be very heroic, very logical. So Descartes started beautifully, that everything can be doubted. And Descartes was in search of the self-evident truths, clear and distinct perception, that free choice, that one is free to doubt everything, and that doubt is a conscious doubt. And Descartes tried to apply mathematics in philosophy, as in mathematics we deduce one idea from another idea, and the derived idea is equally true from the source idea. There is no gap. There is no degradation. The derived idea is equally true with the source idea. So this is the beauty of mathematics. This is the beauty of logic. So Descartes tried to explain cosmology. Descartes tried to explain the cosmic phenomena by mathematical principles, that as mathematics is self-evident, so we can explain the external world with certain self-evident principles. So everything can be doubted, and doubting is very much natural. I can doubt everything because I don't have any guarantee. I don't have any guarantee means mathematical guarantee. Guarantee means not perceptual guarantee, that it is verified in laboratory, therefore it is to know. The laboratory verification is also subject to revision. Laboratory verification is not the verification. Scientific verification is not the verification. Empirical verification is not the verification. These verifications are probable by nature. The mathematical verification is the only verification, and that is self-evident. So we should speak of such a statement that nobody can doubt, nobody can question, nobody will have any problem to accept it. So what is that principle? Let us reject every principles. Let us reject every declarations. Let us reject every philosophy. Let us reject every philosophers. Everybody can be rejected. Everybody, everything, every teaching, every scripture, every declaration can be rejected. But the very act of rejecting, the very act of doubting, the very act of negating cannot be negated. That I am negating everything, that cannot be negated. This is the principle. That I am doubting everything, that cannot be doubted. So Descartes was in search of the most clear, simplest, distinct perception, that which is universally true and which cannot be challenged by anybody else. Anybody else. In no space, in no time, no space. Even you go to the Mars, or you go to any space, or you speak of any time, mathematics cannot be doubted. Whatever is self-evident, that cannot be doubted. That I am doubting, that cannot be doubted. Oh, what I am doubting, that's a separate thing. Whether I am doubting table or chair or sky or tree, that's a separate thing. The very act of doubting cannot be doubted. This much is absolutely true. Absolutely true means universally true. It is true for all persons, in all space, in all time. So doubting is there. So therefore doubter is there. Therefore the thinker is there. And I am that thinker. Then if I exist, then God must exist. So in this way, Descartes developed his philosophy. But what is the problem in Descartes' philosophy? The starting was very good. Descartes faced the problem when he tried to make a relation between mind and body. The distinction was made by Descartes very beautifully. Two things were created very beautifully. It is very easy to create a machine, but that machine should be functional, otherwise it will be useless. Suppose a machine will not function, then it will be useless. Suppose we are purchasing a TV, suppose we are buying a motorcycle, if that will not function, then it will be useless. So two substances are well explained by Descartes, that this is mind, this is the thinking substance, this is the matter, that is the external substance. But how can these two are related? how mind and body are related, how these two substances are. This is one problem. And he tried to explain, taking the help of pineal glands. I am going to that. The second problem is that he also failed to explain the dualism between the absolute substance and the relative substance. Substance cannot be relative. If something is substance, this is a self-contradiction. If you think of substance, don't make any compromise. Suppose in one family, there must be one father. We can't have two fathers. One is absolute father, the other is a subsidiary father. No, there is no necessity of subsidiary father. In one college, there must be one principal. There is vice principal, but he is vice principal. He is not a subsidiary principal. Principal is one. The authority must be one. Chief minister is one. Prime minister is one. Father is one. If we give substantial status to something, that cannot be relative by nature, because that goes against the definition of substance. Substance cannot be relative. Substance cannot be subsidiary. Substance cannot be dependent. If anything that is dependent, that cannot be substance. So Descartes said that mind and body are substances, but they are also finite. They are also dependent. They are subsidiary. They are relative, and they depend upon the higher substance, that is God. This is the second problem. Third problem is that substance must be all-inclusive. This is the definition of substance. Substance cannot be exclusive of anything. If it is exclusive of anything, that cannot be substance. Substance must be inclusive of everything. But what is the case of matter? Matter is exclusive of consciousness. And how can matter be called a substance? Mind is exclusive of extension. So if something is exclusive of something, then that cannot have substantial status. So mind is limited by matter, matter is limited by mind. So substance cannot be limited by anything else. So Descartes gave the status of a substance to both mind and body, mind and matter, but at the same time Descartes says that mind is limited by extension and matter is limited by consciousness, which is against the definition of a substance. Conception of a God is all right. God is all inclusive. God has both extension and thought. So there is no problem in God. But we can't speak of matter as a substance if it is limited by anything else. We can't give the status of a mind if it is limited by anything else. So this is a problem. If you limit, then don't say that it is a substance. If you say it is a substance, then don't limit its power. This is not fair. That takes place in politics. We give power to somebody, but he is really powerless because he has no freedom to act. This is not fair. At least not fair in philosophy. Philosophy deals with the definitions, and Descartes deals with the definitions. Descartes says that whatever I am doing through definitions. So far as the universal doubt is concerned, Descartes' contribution is well understood. And all credits go to Descartes, that Descartes invented a very beautiful stating, philosophical stating, and a philosophical method that is universal doubt. That method is very good. And Descartes is speaking of intuition, And that is also very nice. Yes, intuitive awareness is very much authentic, because that does not need any external evidence. The truth is well understood by everybody. So this contribution is there, and we acknowledge that. But when, and the dualism is also all right, there is no problem. But when the question of relation between the two poles of dialectics, this is mind and this is body, and they are limited to each other, then Descartes is not accepted. Descartes says that in our body there is warmth. In everybody has warmth, and because of that warmth, we have three things. We have warmth in our body, number one. We have a blood in our body, and we have a pineal gland. These three things we have. Because of warmth, blood circulates, and because of the blood circulation, there is an animal spirit that becomes vibrant, and that touches the pineal gland, and through the pineal gland, the body-mind interaction takes place. This way, Descartes managed to negotiate the gap between body and mind, but this is not satisfactory. This definition is not satisfactory, and Descartes failed in this way. And again, Descartes gives the substantial factors to mind and body, which is not logically sound. This goes against the definition of substance. Number two. Number three, Descartes spoke of freedom, that everyone is free to doubt. So doubt is the free inquiry. That is the human inquiry should start with doubt, doubting everything, questioning everything, because we want to be free from all types of dogmas. But Descartes himself could not be free from Christian theology. So this is the problem in some countries, and except India, that in India philosophy is a free inquiry. It is free from religion. It is free from politics. Even a philosopher may die. And his philosophy may not be accepted. Philosophy of Mahima Dharma may not be accepted. May not be recognized. It may long time to be recognized. But it is a philosophy. Philosophy has no compromise at all. Philosophy does not compromise with religion, with politics, any type of politics. No external factor, no external politics can influence the thought of a philosopher, thought of a free thinker. Descartes' starting point was very much freedom oriented, that one should have free inquiry. But Descartes was biased by Christian theology, and Christian theology believes in dualism. Christian theology, dualism in the sense, Christian theology believes in the fact that God is the creator. God is the creator and the world is created. So this concept of a creator and a created is the basic point of Christian theology, which was accepted by Descartes. This is a sort of, this is a type of a compromise. So philosophy should not be, philosophy should not entertain any type of a compromise. If you are going, in a particular direction, you should go in that direction. So Descartes tried to explain the existence of a God by giving ontological argument, cosmological argument, causal argument. He gave so many arguments only to satisfy Christian theology that there must be a God who is the creator, and the world is created. The existence of a God as accepted by Descartes is not so self-evident as cogito ergo sum is self-evident. Here we find the that difficulty. Here that becomes weak. Descartes jumped, and Descartes assumed the existence of God, giving him the substantial status that it likes a speculation. Again, Descartes put himself into speculation. That attempt was not satisfactory. Not only Descartes, Berkeley, and other philosophers, they have compromised with Christian theology. They fear the head of Christian theology, that is that Pope. They fear. They can't speak against religion, so they are bound to speak of God, and they have to God and mind. They are bound. Berkeley committed that mistake. I shall discuss that when I shall speak about Berkeley's philosophy. Berkeley committed that mistake. But Spinoza did not commit that mistake. This is the contribution of Spinoza. Descartes' starting point was very good. As if he started his philosophy as a free thinker, that I don't accept anything, everything can be doubted. But his ending point was a compromise. That was a compromise with Christian theology, that there must be a God, and God is the absolute substance. These mind and body are relative substances, and this world is created by God. So God is the creator, the world is the created. So there is a dualism between the creator and the creation, God and the world. This is how Christian theology and Christian authorities, they are satisfied. And Descartes became a very good philosopher, because any philosopher who can satisfy the Christian authority become a very successful philosopher. And it is very risk, and this is a matter of risk if you go against Christian principles. That at that time it was a matter of risk, because a philosopher was not free from religion. But he should be. A philosopher should be a philosopher. He should be free from religion. Spinoza contributed that. So this is the contribution of Spinoza. So Spinoza spoke of monism. So by speaking of monism, by advocating monism, he solved all these problems of dualism advocated by Descartes. That mind and body, they are not two substances, they are attributes of the same substance. So substance is one, and mind and body are nothing but the attributes of the substance. We shall discuss that. So by rejecting mind and body as substances and accepting mind and body as attributes of the same substance, Spinoza lands in monism. That there is no other substance than God. God is the only one substance. God is the only substance. Mind and body are not substances. And substance means that must be one. One substance is the genuine substance. Two substances, many substances are not genuine substances, because by definition, substance must be one. Then what is the status of mind and body? That's the status of mind and body is nothing but the attributes of the same substance. So here Spinoza spoke of monism. Secondly, Spinoza is speaking of a God as the substance, but the God of Spinoza is not a religious God. Therefore, he did not compromise with Christian religion or Christian theology. That my God is not a religious God. My God is not that God that you worship in the temples. My God is not a religious God. Descartes' God was that. Because out of the fear of Christian theology, he gave God, he imagined God, and he tried to prove God as the creator of the entire creation. When we speak of God as a creator, that goes in favor of religion. Because in religion, there is some higher principle is accepted as a creator. And he has created everything. Creator and creation, this is a concept in religion. But Spinoza said God is not the creator. God is not a creator and the world is not created. By saying that, Spinoza said that my God is not a religious God. My God is not a God of any religion. Therefore, at that time, Spinoza was not accepted as a philosopher because it was not suitable with Christian religion. So he was not given credit of a philosopher. And Spinoza was declared as an atheist. Because why Spinoza was declared as an atheist? Because Spinoza did not give the religious status to God. That religious status of God says that God has intellect, God has willpower. Out of God's will, everything has been created. God's will. God has will, God has intellect, God has infinite power. Out of that infinite power, God has created everything. Everything is according to God's will. These are all religious statements. Spinoza did not believe in such type of a conception of a God. That my God is not a religious God. My God is a mathematical God. My God is a conceptual God. My God is equal with nature. My God is not the creator of this nature. My God is equal to the nature. So God and nature are same. So this is the second position of monism. First, mind and body are not substances. So the duality between absolute substance and subsidiary substance was out. So one substance is accepted. So this is one door is open for monism. That substance is one. Second question is that one substance is that one substance creator? No. That one substance is one, but that one substance is called God, but that is not the creator of the world. He is not the creator. And he has no personal will, intellect, emotion, feelings. My God is not a religious God that he can feel, he can have emotion. His desire is the highest desire. No, these are all dogmas. These are all religious dogmas. Therefore, Spinoza was treated as an atheist. Therefore, he was not given the status of a philosopher. At that time, out of the grudge, that was a punishment. So, but Spinoza did not care for that. And a philosopher should not care. A philosopher should be a philosopher. A philosopher should have a free thought, free pursuit of pursuit of thought, three pursuit of truths. So Spinoza proved. How Spinoza proved it? Now we shall come to the topic. Our experience says there are two types of entities, conscious and unconscious, matter and consciousness. So it is very difficult to make a bridge between matter and consciousness. Therefore, the monists claim, those who believe in monism, they claim that actually there are not two realities, the reality is one. Matter and consciousness, they appear to be two, but they are the two types of manifestations of the same reality. Similarly, in Sankhya system, in Indian philosophy, we have dualism of Purusha and Prakruti, where Purusha is considered as the pure consciousness and Prakruti is the principle of matter, and Prakruti is unconscious but active, Purusha is conscious but inactive, and they are independent to each other. That means Purusha can't be explained by Prakruti and Prakruti can't explain by Purusha. So not only in Western philosophy, in Indian philosophy also, we deal with dualism, but we face the same problem in both East and West. When we try to make a relation between these two entities. If no relation is required, then there is no problem. If we need a relation between these two extreme points of reality, there we face a problem. Because without the connection, without the relation between these two, creation is not possible. So, at the one side, we claim the interaction, the relation between these two extreme entities, and the other side, we claim that they are independent to each other. So this is a philosophical problem. How can we meet this problem? How can we negotiate this gap? So philosophers have given, they have tried to explain the relation between matter and mind, between consciousness and unconsciousness in different ways. In one way, in Sankhya system, and the other way in Descartes' philosophy, and still the other way in philosophy of Plato. Different attempts have been given to explain the philosophy of dualism, but that is not satisfactory. That is not satisfactory because we can't give a satisfactory worldview without adhering to the philosophy of monism. So first of all, we have to understand that these apparent two entities are not really two. They are one. Matter and consciousness, they are not two substances, they are two attributes of the same substance. This is the view of Spinoza. So Spinoza as a monist claims that, and he challenged the dualistic position of Descartes by saying that matter and mind are not substances. They don't have any substantial status. They are attributes of the same substance. So this is the claim of Spinoza. But in Advaita Vedanta, when Spinoza tried to explain the problem raised by Descartes. Similarly, Advaita Vedanta is trying to explain the problem of Sankhya. In Advaita Vedanta, or also in the Bhagavad Gita, they believe that these systems believe that Purusha and Prakruti, they are not two. They are not two. They are not different from each other. They are different modifications of the same reality. That means there are different layers of consciousness. In different layers, we realize the embodiment self, the bondage of self through this empirical world. That means in the lower layer of consciousness, we think that I am this body, or I am identified with this physical world, and I am trapped by, I am a product of this Prakruti, gunas. But in the higher layers of consciousness, I realize, every seeker of, every man of wisdom realizes that he is not this body, he is not this mind, he is not the intellect, he is not Prakruti, he is not the product of Prakruti, he is Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. That means Purusha and Prakruti, they are not two different entities, they are the different modifications of the same ultimate entity, that is Brahman. So the explanation is same. The Advaitic explanation against the position of Sankhya, and the Spinozistic explanation against the position of Descartes is same. Both Shankaracharya and Spinoza claim that matter and mind, or conscious and unconscious, they are not two entities. That means everything is conscious. Only consciousness is there, because the ultimate substance cannot be unconscious. That must be conscious. So consciousness is the highest principle. In Advaita Vedanta, it is called pure substance, pure consciousness, Sat Chit Ananda, pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss, Pragyanam Brahma. And in Spinoza, it is called substance. And that substance is one, that is independent, that is omniscient, that is all-inclusive, and that is independent, that is one. And that is pure consciousness. That is Chetana. That cannot be a principle of unconsciousness. So by the choice between consciousness and unconsciousness, monist philosophers go with consciousness. That consciousness is the nature of the higher reality. So this is the explanation of monist philosophers. So Spinoza claimed that mind and body are not two substances, rather they are the attributes of the same substance. So mind and body don't have any substantial status, because anything that is a substance, that cannot be dependent. But what Descartes said that mind and body are dependent substances. They are subsidiary substances. So mind and body depend upon the higher principle, that is God. This is one problem. The second problem is Descartes believed that God is the creator. God is the creator, and as the creator, he has created all the finite things, including matter and mind. So this is also not the position of both Spinoza and Advaita Vedanta. They don't think that the higher principle is the creator, because that is the one. If there is if suppose we shall claim that something is the creator, then there will be a duality of the second position, that something is created. So there will be dualism between creator and created. Something is the creator and something is created. Again, we shall land on dualism. So Spinoza believes that the substance is not the creator. The substance, the same substance, manifests through the entire nature. So God is not different from nature. So God is nature. All is God. God is all. God and nature are not two entities, and their relation is not the relation of the creator and the created. Because if we claim that something is creator, then the other will remain present, that is created. So the relation between creator and the created will lead to the problem of dualism. That means the substance is one, and that is not only one, that is all inclusive. But what is the background of this thought of Spinoza? Spinoza developed his philosophy from geometry. Spinoza says that there are two entities for our understanding. That is not dualism. For our understanding, there are two entities. One is the unmanifest and the other is the manifest. The unmanifest and manifest, they are not two, but for our understanding, we can separate these two. For our understanding, philosophical understanding, otherwise we can't realize the status of one unity in diversity. So for that understanding, we have to accept, we have to go through these two possibilities. One is the unmanifest status of one thing, and the other is the manifest status of the same thing. The same thing is in the form of unmanifest and also in the form of a manifestation or manifest. He developed his philosophy from geometry. Now, we shall see how in geometry there is unmanifest and manifest. Because geometry is the science of space. So there is empty space, or empty space means the total space, and that total space is indeterminate, that is not limited, that is infinite. So infinite space is there, and this is very natural. We pragmatically experience the infinite space. From our experience, we know that there is infinite space. Number one. Number two, when we speak of the triangle or a circle or a square, these are the modifications made in that eternal space. Suppose the whole space is there, and I draw a triangle on the wall or on the blackboard. That means that triangle took a form that occupied a finite space in the infinite space. So that triangle is a modification, is a mode, that is a mode of the infinite space. Similarly, the circle is another modification, because that has also occupied space in the infinite space. So all finite contents of space are the modifications of the infinite space. So this is the relation between the unmanifest and manifest. In geometry, we experience this. From the knowledge of our geometry, we came to know this relation. We are not discussing about metaphysics. We are not discussing about the worldview. We are not discussing about monistic position of Spinoza. This is geometry, and this is common sense. There is total space, which is indeterminate, which is infinite by nature. This is well understood. But whenever we draw a triangle, that may be a small triangle or a very big triangle, that triangle is a triangular modification of the total space. Similarly, a circle is a circular modification of that total space. Similarly, the square is also a modification in the total space. Similarly, my house is a modification of the total space. The college or a very big building, anything that has extension, which has occupied an extension, that is nothing but the modification of that empty space. Number one. Number two, the eternal, that space, that infinite space is eternal because it is infinite, and that eternal quality which is found in the infinite space is also found in a small triangle or in a small circle or in a small square. That means the essence that is found in the total space, that essence is also found in the modifications. It is learned from geometry. Now we are not discussing about philosophy. How Spinoza says that in a small triangle, small or big, in every triangle, there is the same law. That law says that the sum total of the three angles is equal to two right angles. That means that is equal to 180 degrees. So this law is an eternal law because it is not created by any human being, any science, any philosophy, any religion. So it is not philosophical because this is not created by philosophy. This is even not created by our rational thinking. A triangle has three angles, and the sum total of three angles is equal to two right angles. This principle is eternal. It is infinite. Now, we may take different shapes of triangle, small triangle, big triangle, bigger triangle, biggest triangle. In all triangles, this relation is same. This eternal truth is same. That means whatever is found in the totality, that is also found in the individuality. Suppose we shall take an example of the great ocean and a drop of water from that ocean. We shall find the same element which is found in the total ocean. The same essence is also found in the small, a single drop of water from that ocean. Similarly, when we are going to test our blood, we don't take the bucket of blood. We just give one drop of blood. That drop of blood determines the qualities, the essence of the total blood that is in our body. So this leads to monism, because whatever is found in the infinite, in the total source, that is found in the individual parts or modifications. So this is a type of philosophy which we can call involution. Sri Aurobindo speaks about involution and evolution, but here Spinoza believes in involution. So many philosophers they start their philosophy from the process of involution, and the other possibility is that many philosophy starts with evolution. Science believes in evolution, that something evolves to the higher possibility. But rationalist philosophers, especially Spinoza, he believes in involution. That means he tries to prove that the eternal truth and the essence of the totality that is found in all the individual parts or modifications. That means both the unity and the diversity, both the unmanifest and the manifest, both the substance and the modes or modifications are real from this standpoint. So this in that way we can say that they are not two, because they have the same essence. So Spinoza discovered this truth from geometry. As Descartes discovered his method from mathematics, Spinoza discovered this truth from geometry. That all these formal figures like a triangle, a circle, or a square, these are nothing but the modifications of that infinite source, that empty space. Now we shall apply this methodology, this truth to the empirical and metaphysical realities. The empirical world, which appears to be unreal according to Shankara, and which appears to be real according to Ramanuja, these are nothing but the modifications of the same substance. So Spinozistic philosophy is a compromise between these two, the philosophy of Shankara and the philosophy of Ramanuja. That means the philosophy of Nirguna and Saguna. The philosophy of unmanifest, only the unmanifest is real, and the second philosophy that both the unmanifest and the manifest are real. Spinoza believes in both. Spinoza believes in Advaitavada and Visishtadvaitavada. That is the beauty in Spinozistic philosophy. How Spinoza believes in the philosophy of Advaitavada? Spinoza says that the reality is one, and that is abstract monism. Abstract monism means that only the substance is real and the modifications are unreal. As Shankara said, that only Brahman is real and Jagat Mithya. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. That is Vivarta. Spinoza believes this. From one standpoint, Spinoza claims that only the substance is real and modifications are not real because they are finite. But this explanation is from one perspective. If we shall give the substantial status to one, that is God, then everything except God is the modifications, and the modifications are finite, they are real. Why Spinoza spoke this? Spinoza is trying to explain that man should not be biased by, man should not be trapped by the modifications. That means if one will take the modifications to be granted, if one shall accept the modifications as a reality, then he will be in bondage. For example, triangle is a modification. Triangle is a modification of the entire space. So we have to understand that triangle is a determination of the indeterminate space. So anything that is determined, anything is a determination, that is a limitation. So every modification, every mode is a limitation because it is a determination. So man should not be satisfied with the modifications, because that by that man cannot realize the unity. So from the Paramarthika Dushti, as Shankara also said, from the transcendental point of view, these modifications are unreal. These modifications are finite. This is one position. The second position, so in that sense, that is abstract monism. So the substance is abstract from the world of modifications. This is abstract monism. But at the same time, Spinoza speaks of a pantheism. Monism and pantheism, they are not opposed to each other. They are the two explanations from two perspectives. So, from the standpoint of abstract monism, we understand that only the substance is real, only the substance is real, and the modifications are unreal and finite, and man should not be trapped by these finite modifications. Number one. Number two, so far as pantheism is concerned, this is a status of wisdom. When man is really established with the highest wisdom, and he understands the unity in diversity, at that point man can realize that the substance and the modifications are not different, they are one and the same thing. That means the modifications or the modes are the manifestations of the same substance. So whatever is found in the totality, that is also found in all the modifications, all the modes. So in that sense, Spinozistic philosophy leads to pantheism. That means God is nature. God is not different from the modifications. God is nature. God is all. So three things. One is dualism, the other is monism, and still we have another possibility, that is pantheism. So in order to challenge dualism or to reform dualistic philosophy, Spinoza is speaking of monism, that is abstract monism, but Spinoza is not satisfied with abstract monism. Spinoza again claims that abstract monism is also identical with the diversities, because the modifications are nothing but the modifications of the same substance. This is one thing. Now we shall discuss what is the position of a human intellect. What is the position of a man in this scheme? When we are discussing about monism and pantheism, So generally, anybody will get confused that how these two explanations are possible. At one point, Spinoza says that the modifications are unreal, only the substance is real, and Spinoza becomes an abstract monist. And in another explanation, Spinoza also admits that these modifications are also real. That means the modifications are both real and unreal, which appears to be contradictory. If modifications are unreal, then we can speak of abstract monism. Otherwise, monism cannot be abstract. If we shall give the status of reality to both unity and diversity, then we can speak of a concrete monism like Hegel, and we can speak of a pantheism. So Hegel is one philosopher, Spinoza is another philosopher. These two philosophers will give two separate views. That is natural. But how can one philosopher give the two world views, both monism and pantheism? That means how the world of diversity or modifications is both real and unreal. In order to establish abstract monism, the modifications are bound to be unreal. Otherwise, there will be no position of abstract monism. And in order to establish pantheism, the modifications are bound to be real. Otherwise, there will be no pantheism. God cannot be said to be all. So here comes the position of a human intellect, the position of a man, the position of the philosopher himself, who is the real target, because the metaphysical reality is something, and the understanding of a metaphysical reality is something else. It is different. So Spinoza says that Spinoza believes in involution. So in the process of involution, he admits that there is, in geometry, he admits that there is total space, and in philosophy, he admits that is substance, who is infinite. So in geometry, Spinoza believes in infinite space. In philosophy, Spinoza believes in the infinite substance, that is one substance, that is God. Spinoza says, if we shall believe in involution, then that one substance has infinite numbers of attributes. Attributes are not two, that is thought and extension. There are infinite numbers of attributes. Infinite numbers of attributes. And infinite numbers of infinite attributes. This is the possibility of the substance, because substance is all inclusive. No attribute is exclusive of the substance. So substance has infinite attributes in philosophy. In geometry, the total space has infinite determined formal figures. Triangle is one example. Circle is another example. Square is another example. There can be infinite numbers of formal figures. We can take any shape. Any house is one formal figure. Any design of any college or any university, anything that occupies an extension, that occupies a space, that is a formal figure. So attributes are infinite. Attributes are not two. So in the process of involution, if we shall start from the unity and we shall go forward to diversity, so Spinoza says that one substance has infinite numbers of attributes. But human intellect, this is the position of a man. Human intellect or man can know only two attributes. Only two attributes. Their thought and extension. So what does it mean? Beyond these two attributes, there are other attributes. I am repeating, one infinite substance is there. In the process of involution, Spinoza claims that there are infinite numbers of attributes. Each attribute has its modifications. But human intellect or man himself, with all his possible knowledge of science, philosophy, religion, literature, everything, the wise person, the man of wisdom, man can only know two attributes, their thought and extension. That means beyond these two attributes, there are other attributes, and also they have their modifications. That means human intellect is only aware of the part of this empirical possibility. The empirical possibility of the transcendental reality is not total. We can know only two empirical possibilities out of the infinite possibilities. So the attributes that we don't know, the attributes that we can't know, that is the area of our ignorance. That is the area of our ignorance. That means out of the infinite attributes, human intellect can perceive only two attributes and the modifications. That means man is satisfied, and man is bound to be satisfied with these limited empirical possibilities. That means the empirical world that we see, that is not the total manifestation of the infinite substance. In that sense, this modification is not real. It is not real because it is not the totality. It is not the totality. By ignorance, man claims that he has infinite knowledge, that he has complete knowledge of the whole creation. In the Bhagavad Gita, that was the problem of Arjuna. Arjuna failed to know the total reality. Therefore, Lord Krishna gave him the Divya Chakyu to see the Vishwarupa. Vishwarupa Darshana. Vishwarupa Darshana means the vision of the totality. The vision of the totality is possible by an empirical person through the special vision. Through the special vision means through the divine mind only. So the divine mind can perceive the totality. That is the mind of Lord Krishna. That is the substance itself. So the substance itself knows its total infinite possibilities. But so far as man is concerned, man can know only two attributes, their thought and extension and their modifications. So the empirical world that we see is not the total world. The triangle that we see is not the total geometry. So geometry is also limited. The geometry as a science is not the total science of space. It is a part. It is a part. We study triangle, circle, square. That is not geometry. That is a very big science. Because the science of space is impossible. That is impossible because we can't have the knowledge of the total space, that total space. Similarly, we can never know the metaphysics. Exactly, this is said by Immanuel Kant. that the world that we perceive, that is the world of space and time. The judgments that we give about this empirical world, that is through the 12 categories of understanding. So a true philosopher admits the limitation of human understanding, the limitation of human realization, how far you can go, how far you can go. So that possibility is better understood in Advaita philosophy. How far you can go? In Advaita Vedanta it is said, I can go to the level of pure consciousness when I say Aham Brahmasmi. There are different layers of consciousness, and this man who is claiming of possessing a mind, that mind is only a layer of consciousness. Beyond that layer of consciousness, there are higher levels of consciousness. How far you can go? We can go to the Brahman. That Brahma Vidya, that Brahma realization is possible by a man, because the self within is the same Brahman. This is the position of Advaita Vedanta. But in Spinozistic philosophy, man has become limited, because human intellect can grasp only two attributes, their thought and extension. That means our empirical knowledge, our epistemology is conditioned to these two things, thought and extension. Beyond that, we can't determine, we can't explain, we can't describe the reality. Therefore, all determinations are negation. Because our knowledge is finite, because we are only confined to two attributes, and there are other attributes about which we are ignorant, so we can't give any determination to that infinite source. That is just like to giving torchlight to sun. We can't give light to sun because sun is the brightest. So we cannot color, we cannot give light to sun. Similarly, we can't determine the indeterminate by our formal understanding, by our limited knowledge. So here man is in a bracket. Man, any description, any determination, any understanding that is pursued through man, that is human. So human is a format. So by that human format, we cannot determine the indeterminate. Therefore, the ultimate reality is indescribable. That is not that cannot be defined by human being, because man is not qualified. Who can define? He who knows the totality. That is exactly said in Jaina system, that you can't describe the whole elephant being a blind observer. Every man is a blind observer. Being blind, you can't describe the elephant. Your description will be a limitation. Therefore, only that person who has Kevala Jnana, that means who has the knowledge of the totality, he can describe the totality. So this is the point of, so what was our problem? That how the modification is both real and unreal. From the human understanding, when man is trying to understand metaphysics, then any understanding of the empirical world and also the transcendental world is incomplete. In that sense, it is bound to be unreal. So there are two things. One is the metaphysics, and the other is the understanding of metaphysics. So far as the understanding of metaphysics is concerned, we can't understand the totality. Therefore, we can't say this empirical world is real. because this empirical world is a part modification, a part manifestation of the total manifestation. Total manifestation means all attributes, infinite attributes is the total manifestation. Out of the total manifestation, we have access for only part manifestation, that is the manifestation of thought and manifestation of extension. Our experience is concerned with the thought and extension. Beyond that, we don't have any access. So from that standpoint, all modifications are not real. All modifications are unreal. And in the abstract sense, we can say, neti, neti, not this, not this, not this, not this. This is the abstract sense, not this, because we can't describe positively. Therefore, because we cannot determine the indeterminate, we can't determine the indeterminate, therefore, we should not determine. Not this, not this. In Advaita Vedanta, it is said, not this, not this, not this, not this. That means that Brahman or that ultimate substance is abstract. It is abstract because we can't have complete knowledge of all the attributes and all the possible modifications. So at least we can say that beyond my intellect, beyond my understanding, beyond my realization, there is an infinite mind, there is an infinite intelligence, there is a supreme being which is the cause, which is the total manifestation, including this empirical world. So this empirical world is unreal, is an appearance so far as human intellect is concerned. But from the metaphysical standpoint, the total is total. The total reality is there, inclusive of this empirical world that we wrongly call as real. In that sense, Spinoza speaks of a pantheism, that from the metaphysical standpoint, the unity or that ultimate substance is manifested in all the modifications. All the modifications means possible modifications and actual modifications. Actual modifications means the modifications that are conceived, that are understood, that are perceived by human intellect. That is the actual modification that we experience. But beyond our experience, there are possible for man, actual for the substance. For substance, everything is actual. For man, that is possible because we fail to assess it. We fail to know this. So, from the metaphysical point of view, the one substance is manifested in the nature. Here is the misconception. What is that nature? God is manifested in nature God is manifested in nature, or God is all. That does not mean the nature is this empirical world that we perceive. No. Nature means the perceived world and the unperceived world. Nature means the total manifestation of all the infinite attributes of the substance. Nature means the total manifestation of the substance. But man is acquainted with, man is aware of only the part manifestation, that is the manifestation of extension and manifestation of a thought. So this is Spinoza made a very beautiful negotiation between monism and pantheism. And that monism is abstract monism. That means Spinoza speaks of both abstract monism and also concrete monism. That means we can abstract the higher principle from the modifications. This is one understanding. And secondly, we can include that one infinite substance in the diversities. Unity in diversities. Unity can be understood in the abstract way. That is possible. And that unity can be understood through the diversities. Both possibilities are there. When the unity is understood abstract from the diversities, it is abstract monism. When the unity is understood through the diversities, that is pantheism. Both are real. Both these possibilities are relevant for the position of a human being, because man is limited, human intellect is limited. This position is not there in Advaita Vedanta because there man is not given a distinct status. Man is equal to Brahman. The individual soul is equal to the Supreme Soul. Jiva Brahmeva na paraha. Jiva Brahmeva na paraha. But in Spinoza, Jiva is the manifestation. Jiva is the manifestation of our Brahma. Jiva is a modification of our Brahma. Jiva is finite because Jiva cannot understand the total manifestation of the substance. This is the difference between Spinoza and Sankara. In Sankara, man is given the status of divinity. That man is equal to Brahman. Man is equal to Brahman. That means the Jiva and Brahma, they are not different. So this man, by yoga sadhana, by spiritual sadhana, by right knowledge, can know the total manifestation of Brahman. Total manifestation of Brahman. That human perception is formal. Human perception is empirical. Human perception is conditional. So, through human perception, we man cannot give a complete description about the reality. But in Advaita Vedanta, this finite man means man of a particular layer of consciousness, has the possibility, has the capacity to know Brahman. To know Brahman. This is the difference between the philosophy of Sankara and Spinoza. Many works have been done, many PhD theses has been done in the comparing these two philosophers, Sankara and Spinoza. And also Spinoza and Ramanuja. Also Spinoza and Hegel. So Spinozistic philosophy is the philosophy of monism, and at the same time it is the philosophy of pantheism. So far as monism is concerned, Spinozistic philosophy can be compared with the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, Sankara, and so far as pantheism is concerned, philosophy of Spinoza can be compared with Hegel and Ramanuja. So Spinoza beautifully spoke of the two possibilities. One is the philosophy of unmanifest. So far as the philosophy of unmanifest is concerned, it is abstract monism. But at the same time, the manifest is also real because they are nothing but the modifications of the attributes, and attributes constitutes the essence of the substance. So substance, attributes, and the modes, all are real. All are real. In that sense, it is pantheism. It is pantheism. But so far as abstract monism is concerned, world is not real. Only that abstract principle is real. So here comes the human wisdom. When man is established with the highest wisdom, man can know the limitation of the appearance. That this empirical world is really empirical. The modifications are really modifications, and that substance is one. That substance is one. And another level of consciousness that man can realize the one is not different from the modifications, because the essence of one is the essence of the many. So here, when we shall discuss the philosophy for Leibniz, Leibniz will solve this problem. Leibniz will say, don't confuse the common man being a monist and a pantheist at the same time. So we shall discuss that when we shall discuss Leibniz. Leibniz will solve this problem. But this is the contribution of Spinoza, when Spinoza is going to challenge the dualism of Descartes. So now there is no chance of dualism. The dualistic position is out. There is no dualism. There is no dualism between the metaphysical entity and the empirical entity, the absolute substance and the subsidiary substance. And there is no duality between extension and matter, extension and a thought. Extension and thought, they are not two. And the metaphysical entity and the empirical entity, they are also not two. This dualistic position is challenged, and it is rejected by Spinoza. And Spinoza developed his philosophy as abstract monism, but Spinoza was not satisfied, and then Spinoza developed his philosophy as pantheism, that the one substance is not different from the modifications, the attributes. So in this session, we just discussed this much. In the next session, we shall discuss substance, attributes, and modes in detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your yet another nice lecture on Monism and Pantheism, especially with reference to Spinoza. Well, taking the problem of dualism, the interactionism problem that we saw in Descartes. Now, as you started with the philosophy of Spinoza, as you rightly said, that thought and extension are the manifestations of one and the same reality. So asserting this, so we arrive at a single substance. The duality of substances that was creating a problem in Descartes, that problem was resolved in the philosophy of Spinoza. And one important thing, apart from the resolution of this problem, you made a very beautiful assertion that the ultimate reality about which Spinoza talks of, or the ultimate substance, that is one, and that is nothing but the consciousness. So everything is then charged with consciousness. Even the matter around is charged with consciousness. Now, as regarding the infinite space and the finite space, making a reference to the manifested world and the unmanifested, you took a very good example of a triangle, and wherein you said that Spinoza based his entire philosophy on geometry, and he took the geometric representations to understand the infinite through the finite. Now you took space as Spinoza took space as an important medium to understand this infinite through the finite, when you talked of Spinoza's philosophy in saying that the infinite space is very much contained in the finite space, because the finite space is not different from that infinite space. So to explain this you took the example of a circle or a triangle. An infinite triangle and a finite triangle both have the same properties. Whatever properties apply to the infinite triangle do apply to the finite triangle. So this being so, same is the case for a circle. Whatever properties do apply to an infinite circle do apply to a finite circle. So whatever that can be said of that can be said of a finite space do apply to the infinite space. So we can talk of the unmanifest through the manifest. So this is where something a sort of speciality can be attached to the philosophy of Spinoza, wherein you talked of a sort of abstraction being possible, or a sort of abstract monism is possible, wherein from the concrete we say from that one ultimate principle or from that one substance we can find him in the diversities, and from the diversities again we go back to that unity. So both the ways we can see, and that's why you talk of pantheism in the philosophy of Spinoza. And more importantly, in the middle you talked of there is only one reality, that being the substance, and substance has infinite attributes, and the human beings being finite, having finite intellect, they can know only two attributes out of the infinite attributes. So we limit our thinking to only two attributes, and hence, because we are limited, and this being so, any determination of anything out there would limit that thing, that very thing. So every determination becomes a negation in the philosophy of Spinoza. So that's how the entire talk, what you could see, a sort of monistic thread flowing in, and the problem of dualism that we found in Descartes somehow resolved, and we do see that the monistic thread in Spinoza somehow landed in a sort of pantheism, and this is the message that you gave. And maybe there may be some questions in the chat box. Let us see if are there any. Let me check. To understand world and life. Also realized, and well, it's a question by Shravani Mishra. Well, let's see. We are highly indebted to Sir guiding the concept of Spinoza to understand world and life. Also realized, yes. So it's what Shravani Mishra Madam, she has got to say is she has in mind that the human mind is limited, as you said, and that's why, as you also said, that every determination is a negation. So everything is limited for the human mind. But when you talk of that unmanifest, it has infinite qualities, it has infinite attributes, and we only know, we being ignorant, do know only a finite part of it. So that's how we are limited. Well, see, it's an understanding from your lecture that Shravani Mishra carries on. Now, if we say, then she has a further poser. If we say we are limited, then how special vision can be created with limited minded vision? Well, she takes this idea from Bhagavad Gita, maybe. So what is the stance? What is the logic in asserting that we are limited, and what is the guarantee that we can have a special vision to think of the unmanifest to think of the unmanifest as having infinite attributes, infinite qualities? What right we have got to assert so? Maybe that is the question by Shravani Mishra. Well, she says, because we are finite, and why and what is the logic behind of talking of the unmanifest, and what sort of vision is this, if at all we talk of the unmanifest? Over to Professor Das.
This is a very beautiful question. Actually, a philosophy student should ask this question. Not being a philosopher, not being a student of philosophy, she has asked a very pertinent question. Her question is, if we say that human mind is finite, human mind can know only two attributes of the total attributes, then how can we say that man can have the vision of the totality? That is our question. The same thing was the problem with Arjuna. Arjuna failed to see the totality. Therefore, he was given Divya Chakhu by Lord Krishna, that you take the special vision for few minutes so that you can see the totality. So now the question is that if we are given the Divya Chakhu for few minutes, then we can see the total, we can have the total vision. But what shall we do rest of the time? All the time we are ignorant. We are ignorant of the total vision. So if this is the position of a man, so how can man be perfect? This is a very beautiful question. And this is acknowledged by Immanuel Kant. This is acknowledged by the limitation of a man, is acknowledged by Jaina system, by each and every philosopher. And we also know, we all know our own limitations. The answer is, it is not important. It is not important to have the vision of the total manifestation of the divinity. Therefore, God has given us, God has blessed us with one privilege. What is that? That if you want to know the ocean, just you know only the drop of water from that ocean. Suppose we are going to test your blood, you don't take the entire blood to the doctor, to the hospital. You just take the one drop of your blood, blood, and in that the entire symptoms can be diagnosed by the doctor, that what type of disease you have. Similarly, attributes may be two which are visualized by man, but the same essence which is there in the one substance is also with the in a small atom. The greater of the greatest is equal to the smaller of the smallest. So it is not necessary to know the totality. If you know the manifestation with full knowledge, with impartiality, with devotion, and if you are doing your duty with that wisdom, then you shall become a perfect human being. This is number one. Number two, Spinoza is speaking of morality. We shall have a very beautiful discussion that intellectuality, morality, and spirituality. Intellectuality is about Descartes, morality is about Spinoza, and spirituality is about Leibniz. When we discuss about morality, definitely it is a discussion about human being, because morality is a human possibility. So Spinoza says, don't be worried about the total space. You just learn the essence of the total space from a small triangle. As in a triangle, the three angles are equal to two right angles, and they are eternal. There is no compromise. There is no exception. That should be the character of a human being. Human being, as the spark of the divinity, may be finite, but in every finite thing, the infinite is manifested. The infinite is expressed. So be satisfied with your finiteness and see the infinite in the finite. That is real wisdom. And be as moral as like a triangle. Learn morality from the eternal truth of a triangle. The triangle itself is a modification of the total space. So don't be worried about the total space. Take the example of a triangle and learn the morality from the triangle, how unconditionally in all situations, the triangle maintains the eternal truth that the sum total of the angles is equal to two right angles. So we should be satisfied with our family, with our income, with our relations, with this limited manifestation of the divinity, with this empirical world. We can't change it. We have to live through our limitations, and through that we can have perfection. So here Spinoza speaks of a moral perfection. Therefore Spinoza does not say that my God is a religious God. Spinoza is speaking of the intellectual God. My God is an intellectual God. Intellectual God means the eternal truth which is found in the total space, that is also found in each and every modification, each and every manifestation. Suppose you see a hungry dog, if you don't feel the hunger of a hungry dog, then you are not a human being. Forget about God. From the perception of a dog, if you perceive its hunger, then you are a true human being. So serve the humanity, serve in this empirical limited world, because this empirical world is nothing but the manifestation of that infinite substance. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Das, for a very good response to the question. Well, if we differentiate this knowledge of the unmanifest by taking into account Bhagavad Gita, then the unmanifest has been made manifest to Arjuna through the divine eyes, through the cosmic vision. But Spinoza, for such sort of religiosity or such sort of divine, personality was not there with Spinoza. Rather, he took the mathematical tool, or he took geometry as the tool to manifest the unmanifest, to see the unmanifest in the manifest. And the geometry, the idea of a triangle, the idea of a circle, the idea of infinite space, it is very much explicit in the idea of a finite triangle or a finite circle or a finite space, because the properties that are applicable to a finite triangle are very much the properties that are applicable to the infinite triangle. So we do carry in our mind the idea of an infinite, do carry, because we do understand we are finite. When we have an understanding that we are finite, that very much implies that there is an infinite essence, and that infinite essence is nothing, and that infinite essence could very much be known through the finite that is very much explicit to us. Because as Professor Das was saying, that the triangle, however small it may be, the sum of the angles equals to 180 degrees or two right angles. That is the case for any triangle, how infinite it may be. So that being the case, the infinite space, the unmanifest, can be realized, can be known, can be understood through the finite space. So this is the understanding that Spinoza gives, the understanding of the unmanifest, how we can have. So he takes the help of geometry, and geometry serves the purpose of understanding, of knowing or realizing the unmanifest through the manifest. Thank you very much, sir, for your understanding, for your exposure. Evening, many things we have learned, and hopefully would be learning more of the ideas contained in Spinoza in the next class. Thank you very much, sir. I should thank Sravani madam for her questions. Thank you very much. Now over to Swarnalata Tripathi madam to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Pranam to everybody. Today, Pramod sir delivered a talk on philosophy of the unmanifest and the manifest very beautifully. Again, he also explained the distinction between abstract monism and concept monism. Both God and nature are real from different perspectives. Dr. K. Om Narendra sir moderated the session and gave a beautiful synopsis of the talk. We salute his patience coordination with us in all respects. We are grateful to him for his great contribution for the academic pursuit. We thank all the participants for participating in the discussion. Their presence is our inspiration. We shall meet again tomorrow with our Sunday program in Philosophy Family. Thank you all. Pranam.
I also thank you, madam, from the platform of Philosophy Family for coordinating with us to carry on this webinar series and in a very nice manner. So, your contribution to the success of this webinar series also counts. So, thank you very much, and hoping that this webinar series would go on smoothly. With this hope, I thank all the participants for making this evening so nice, so beautiful, so academically beautiful. So I thank one and all, and also thank the speaker for this nice talk. So with this, I declare this meeting closed.